Let's move on to our second speaker, and that would be Denis Grey, and he'll talk to us about an application called OccultWatcher version 4.0 plus. Take it away, Denis.
Thanks very much, Paul, and it's good to be back again here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about a bit of a niche software product called OccultWatcher. I've spoken about it before, about 3 or 4 years back. So what I wanted to do is to sort of focus on some of the new features that have been added to it while giving an introduction to sort of everybody who might be interested in finding out a little bit more about this very useful little observing tool, both for science-related stuff as well as for your own edification and enjoyment of the night sky. So let me just start here. There we go. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about, sort of citizen science, like how this fits in terms of citizen science, and then I'll talk a bit about what OccultWatcher is, and it's a unique kind of software. I think if you sort of look around the universe of astronomy software, there's a ton of planetarium programs that do various things, and they're all very good. But there's also some very specialized pieces of software, and this is one of those very specialized ones. I'll talk a little bit about how you install it and show you how it's used, and then I'll talk about some of the new features that have been added in recent years that have made it an even more functional and useful product. Hopefully we'll have some questions to go with it. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about occultations, but I'll just explain it for anybody who's never heard the term before. So essentially, an occultation helps us to accurately measure the shape and size of an astronomical object, usually an asteroid. So essentially, we're working with observers on the ground, and each one of those observers is represented by a little line here and a number. And what we're doing is we're essentially timing when the asteroid goes in front of a star, and by accurately timing that, and also knowing exactly where on Earth each observer is, we can get this kind of a profile in 2 dimensions of the asteroid, which tells us pretty accurately what its overall shape is, at least in one 2-dimensional slice, as well as its size quite accurately. So we're able to narrow down the size of asteroids from, kind of around 100 kilometers to 95 kilometers and get it very, very accurate. And where the science part comes in is that that shape and size together, plus its orbital motion and other factors, gives us the asteroid's density. And when you combine it with its color and what kind of orbit it's in, this gives us lots of insight into its origins and where things have come from. So when you hear things like, oh, this asteroid might be a chunk of some other larger asteroid, or this may be related to a breakup event, 100 million years ago in the asteroid belt or something like that. This is where those assertions or those ideas are coming from, is knowing a lot about the individual makeup of individual asteroids. And when we look at sort of how that's all coming together, this is the map of the asteroid belt as we understand it today. And you can see various families of asteroids that have been grouped together through gravitational shepherding by large planets, and different families and different colors here represent different types of asteroids in different areas. So the citizen science that we're doing helps us to understand where these asteroids are coming from, and give us an insight into how they became locked in the positions they are in, and so on. So you're actually making, one of those small but measurable contributions to astronomy, and that's part of what makes hunting for occultations fun. So let's get on to the software here. So what are we talking about? What is OccultWatcher? So OccultWatcher fundamentally is a planning tool. So a little bit like Sky Tools that I know Blake has promoted and other ones, it's one of those tools that you can use as part of your toolkit to help you plan for better observing nights. Planning a failing to plan is planning to fail often when it comes to astronomical observing. So the observers that go out and say, I have a list of things I want to achieve tonight, will do better. And this is one of those things that gives you an opportunity to identify events that are interesting and valuable to, potentially valuable to observe. OccultWatcher combines three key elements to come up with its predictions. One is it's using the internet to pull in details from all kinds of feeds of upcoming occultation details. So these have been calculated by astronomical institutes and interested amateurs from around the world. And they're using star catalogs and asteroid positions to predict exactly when a specific asteroid is expected to go in front of a specific star. Then we combine that information with your location, your specific latitude and longitude that you've done, and then we further combine that with what your observing horizon is and some of your observing preferences. So, for example, you can say, well, I'm not really interested in observing occultations after 2 in the morning. It's just too difficult for me. I need, with my location, I need them to be at least 20 or 30 degrees above the horizon. Have a reasonable chance of catching it. Or maybe I have a magnitude limit with my scope and my gear. I can only reasonably get down to 10th magnitude before it becomes hard for me to find the target star. So we put the software puts all of that information together and then gives you a customized list of what possible lists you can, events you have available. And then from there, you're able to make your decisions about what you might try to observe and what you might not. I'll just mention, for the disappointment of Macintosh fans, that it's only available for Windows at this time. But I suppose if you have appropriate emulation software, you might be able to make it work for you. So sorry about that. In terms of installing it, I should point out it's a little bit non-standard. So it reminds me a little bit, it's a bit old school. You need to download the software and put it in its own little folder on your C drive. That's these days, that's sort of, I think it's about the only piece of software I'm currently using where I have to still do that. So it does feel a little weird, a little old school when I'm doing that. However, it doesn't, I've been using it for years and it hasn't caused me any great trouble yet. So I think that it's reliable and trustworthy software, and there's detailed instructions online about how to do that. One of the other things that's a little odd about it is when you start up the software, the first thing it will do is hide itself. So you think to yourself, hey, this is a little on the stealthy side, but it's meant to be unobtrusive. And so essentially it launches, it shows you, it splashes up there, and then it immediately minimizes itself into your toolbox. And then it will just act in the background and alert you when it has information that it wants to share with you. One of the key things about installing it and using it is that you really do need to configure your personal information for it to do its job well. Key things, obviously, you have to put in your location, and there's some preferences associated with that. Event filters, I mentioned a couple of these, but these are the things that say, out of all of the events that are possible across North America, what are the limits of what you're interested in trying to observe? So the horizon is one, limiting magnitude is another. The 1 sigma distance is, the 1 sigma represents sort of the most likely location where the asteroid's shadow will fall on Earth. And some cases that 1 sigma distance is very wide, other times it's very narrow. But that's basically telling you, you want to get into that 95% chance of seeing the object zone, otherwise there's not much point in trying. So you are allowed to say, how far away from that 1 sigma line should I be before you'll give me this event? And then the object size is also important, because the smaller the asteroid, the greater the uncertainty and the faster it will go by. So a small object that's, say, 5 kilometers wide can only be really effectively captured using imaging or video. It's going to go by so fast that you're not going to actually be able to see it. On the other hand, if it's 100 kilometers wide, then it'll probably suppress the light from the star for 5, 6, 12 seconds, which makes it easy to see visually, and so that's good. Synchronization is the process that the software uses to go and update all of the information by polling all of the feeds, combining it with your information, and you're able to say how often do you want to do that process, because it does take a little bit of time. And then prediction feeds are the feeds that you get to choose to participate in, and I'll talk a little bit about those. And finally, one of the cool features, and it's one of the newer ones that's been added in recent times, is the observation planner, allowing you to coordinate your observing with 1,700. So synchronization can be scheduled. You can also do it on demand, and just by punching a button, and you can update your synchronization. And one of the things that's really important to understand about OccultWatcher when we look at it is the notion of uncertainty or error bars. So for those of you who haven't taken that first year statistics course in a long time, so essentially you can think of the exact location of the asteroid is somewhere along a normal curve. And in this case here, we're showing there's a 68% possibility that the asteroid is going to be here in the sweet spot in the middle, but there's these tailing zones here that also the asteroid could be there. And the uncertainty can come from inaccurate astrometry. So in other words, exactly where is the star that's being occulted, and sometimes there's uncertainty about exactly where the star is. And then there's also uncertainty about exactly where the object is, particularly for comets. So comets have a little bit of their own propulsion, so they're always moving around a little bit. But the bigger and better known the asteroid is, the more accurate the star catalog is, the smaller these error bars will be. So enough preamble. Let's take a little look at the software here, and we'll give you a quick highlight and tour of some of the features and so forth. So this is my copy of OccultWatcher here. I've maximized it in this case, so I'm able to see it. Normally it's living down in my, oops, that was a mistake. It's living down here in my toolbar somewhere. All right, I'm going to get it back somehow here. Oh dear, that was crazy. Let's start it again. All right, so we have second copy. Oh, I see it. Okay, sorry about that, gang. Demos, gotta love it. Okay, so getting back to this. So this is OccultWatcher's main screen here. And you can see here that it has synchronization scheduled. This is second copy. I'm just gonna launch it again, because I know I've got a better configuration. So here we have a list of events. And so this list of events here is showing some upcoming events here. As I click on each event, I get more detailed information shown here on the bottom. And let's take a look at that event that Chris was talking about in his presentation, Sonneberga, right? So this was 4 o'clock in the morning. The rank here indicates 100%. So there's a very, very good chance that if you're in this 1 sigma zone, you're going to see this event. You can see here it's going to be up at about 41 degrees east altitude, so it's visible in the eastern sky, 41 degrees up. That's not bad. The star that's going to be occulted is 10th magnitude. That's pretty good. And the magnitude drop is going to be 6. So it's basically going to disappear from a small telescope. So you can see here all of these additional details. And one handy feature here is you can say, oh, well, 10th magnitude's good, but I'm going to be fighting a full moon at that time. So there will be a lot of sky glow from the moon, even though it's fairly far away. So we've got all kinds of details here, but one of the cool things about it, of course, is that I can go in the online map and I can see exactly where the central line of that occultation is going to go through. And you can see here's the blue line, which is the predicted path, and then the red line here is the 1 sigma and then a 2 sigma distance. This is a big asteroid. Its size is significant. So you can see here that it's a well-known asteroid. It's a relatively low asteroid number. So there's not a lot of uncertainty. So this is the uncertainty here, the 1 sigma distance. And I would have to travel 51 kilometers from the CAO, which is where my location is, in order to get into the path of this occultation. Let's take a look at another one that's even nicer. This one is Loreley. So this is one that's probably going to be featured in the sky this month, next month. So this is another 100% rank. And you can see here, it's relatively speaking huge. And this is my location here. This black line here represents my observatory, my observing location. And I'm right, it's going to come right down my throat here, quote unquote. It's going to drop by 1 magnitude, so it still should be pretty noticeable, 54 degrees up. The moon is in play, but you know, potentially not there. And a reasonable start time, 11:23 local. So all of this information that's coming together tells me a lot about which observations I should choose. The other thing you can see here is some of the other observers who have already signed up to participate here. And you can see that they've marked themselves with their probability of participation. So Black Dog Moore here is saying he's got a medium probability of participating, whereas this other fellow here, Olaf, he's saying I'm either low probability or inexperienced. Here's another one, Anna Marincinak, she's a high probability of participating. So if I decided I want to go ahead and participate in this one, what I would do here is I would add it to my events, and I would say I'm going to try and observe this from one of my observing locations. So you can see here I'm able to add multiple observing locations and configure those in the software. So I'll say I'm going to observe this. I'm going to mark on my Count on Me indicator for, again, sharing this, and I'll show my location. And boing, this new event is added to my list of events, which is very important. We'll talk about that in a minute. You can see here some other indicators that are interesting. So this pink indicator indicates that this, my observing location, is within the 1 sigma zone here for this event. It even shows me my weather forecast. So currently I've got a 50% cloud cover estimated for this event, which is coming up early tomorrow morning. So I may have to cancel that station. Here, this indicator here, you see this is for Blake. The two blue dots indicate this is a double star. So we may see a two-step occultation where one star gets occulted, then the other star. So that would be a cool event to see, but unfortunately, it's way far away from where I'm able to observe. So this online display, this is the heart of the OccultWatcher software, and everything that comes out of it comes through the configuration. So in general, you're able to configure your location, how you want to see distances, how you want to see things done there. You can choose a lot of detailed information and add it to your feed information there. So you can essentially have all kinds of additional detail, all kinds of things here to explore. The event filter is really important because what it's saying is, what is your tolerance for things? So I'm saying, if I'm more than 150 kilometers away, don't bother telling me because it's too far. If the star is lower than 12th magnitude, I don't think I could pull it in with my equipment, so I'm not interested then. If the star is below 15 degrees, same problem. I don't think I'll be able to pull it in, too many trees, that's good. And if the shadow is smaller than 1 kilometer, I'm not interested. And also, if the rank is less than 1, I'm also not interested. So those are key things. And I can have different filters for different events. And we'll talk about the prediction feeds. So each prediction feed can have its own filter. Whenever there's a new event that's been added to OccultWatcher, it gives you a little bing, and it shows you that event. Let me see if I can pull up my presentation again. Should be here. Oh, hang on. Okay, I'm gonna try and do that. But so again, it will highlight new events. So if I have a new event that's not been on the schedule before, it'll be highlighted with black background and white text. So it immediately draws my attention to it, so I can check the settings on that one. Now the prediction feeds are really kind of cool here because this is where you see all the different things that are going on around the world. So the main feed here is what's called the higher probability events. These are quality ones sponsored by IOTA, the organization, and it gives you a feed of these things. You can also subscribe for what they call lower magnitude events. So this is combined magnitudes up to 12.9. So again, these are dim. I don't think I can get them. So I've opted out of it. I've also opted out of the trans-Tasman lower magnitude events, which are basically events that are not only hard to see, but they're in Australia, which causes some difficulties. These ones are particularly cool, though, the trans-Neptunian object events. So there's an observatory has a working group with all of these collaborators here that are looking for occultations of trans-Neptunian objects. We don't know that much about those objects. They're very difficult to see, but if they ever occult a star, we'll learn a lot about their relative size, whether they have atmospheres, all kinds of stuff. So there's that feed, plus another one here, which is a similar project in collaboration here. There's a UK feed, an Italian feed, Middle Eastern, and so forth. So I've chosen some of the ones that look promising to me, and the OccultWatcher software goes through each one of the feeds that I've picked to see if there's any events coming over Toronto that I could get involved with and participate in. And then just in terms of the observation planning, you create a little account on their system, tie it into your software, and then you're able to see all of the stations and all of the participants that are involved with it, and set up your account and your statistics here. So that's the basics of configuration, but a very good Cloudy Night project to go through and optimize some of those things. I should mention there's also add-ins that are included with the software. So there's a process where the author of the software has made an open interface with this software to allow people to include additional things. So there's a reporting module. So if you get into if you don't want to just look at the occultation and go, wow, that was cool, you can also report it scientifically to the IOTA organization. And C2A, which is computer-aided astronomy, it's a planetarium program, which will tie the location of an event into a planetarium program so you can check it out. There's also excellent help resources. There's participation, the choice of languages, and it updates itself automatically up to version 5 right now. So you can see it's going through the process now of doing its synchronization process, and if anything has changed since the last time I did a synchronization, you'll get a message during this presentation in real time. One of the things that can happen is, as we're moving towards an event date, you'll notice the last date updated here. So some of these events haven't been updated recently. So I would expect that some of these ones from late August might get an update because either better astrometry or better information on the star, basically the same thing, but essentially they will enhance these feeds, which will then change the parameters and give you a new potential location that you might want to go towards. So I've enjoyed working with this software. It gives me another observing target to go after when I'm planning my observing runs. And there's that chance again that you might be able to do a little bit of citizen science along the way. So that's a little bit about OccultWatcher, and I'm just going to get my presentation going again. Okay, and just pardon me while I catch up. So first of all, this is an example of what we're trying to achieve here. So you can see here, essentially you put your telescope in place, you find the right star, usually by looking for the little arrow that you'll see in the sky. And then once you've identified that, you can see that star blinking out as the asteroid goes into play. So we talked about the prediction feed. So I didn't mention so much that when I first started using OccultWatcher, we just basically have 2 feeds, and they've been adding more and more. The trans-Neptunian objects we talked about, but there are also feeds now for comets. So comets can occult stars as well, and they're generally very fuzzy objects with sort of a low probability of hitting the actual core of a comet. But if you happen to be able to observe a comet and catch the comet's occulting a star, you could actually come up with an accurate measurement for the size of the comet's core, which would be a pretty cool thing. The special observing campaigns, we talked a little bit about that as well. The other thing that's really kind of cool is there's a mobile app now. So OW Mobile is the name of the app. And what it does is it works with that account that I mentioned earlier and syncs with your subscribed events. So essentially, this one here is a snapshot of my upcoming events here. It shows me a lot of information about the upcoming event, when it is, the star's magnitude, the expected duration, the magnitude drop, and it gives me all of the events in local time, which is really, really nice. So I'm able to see what's happening here. And this is the one that we were just looking at, a 2-second occultation dropping significantly. When you click on the event, it actually gives you a little mini view of the details. So you're able to see where you are relative to other observers. You can check their setup and see everybody who's participating. You can sort of swipe left here and see everybody else who's participating in it. You can see here a lot of asteroid occultations can span the globe. So you may be participating with people from Europe or Australia or South America, depending on which way the cord is going across the screen. One of the things that's nice about this, obviously, is you can work with OccultWatcher without necessarily having to use your laptop, which can sometimes be a trouble. And if weather is threatening or whatever, you're able to cancel your feed so that other observers can plan around it. And this is an important consideration. So you see here we've got 3 stations all bunched together. So it would be nicer to get another station over here. So if you're planning and you have wheels and you're able to go to a different station, then this information allows you to plan accordingly and to take advantage of where other observers who are participating plan to be. The other thing, which I unfortunately can't show you anymore, but the mutual events of Jupiter and Saturn's moons, where one satellite was passing in front of another earlier this year, OccultWatcher provides detailed predictions for your locations down to the minute and showing you exactly which moon is expected to go in front of each other. Unfortunately, we have to wait another 6 years for Jupiter's occultation season to resume, but it works for Saturn and Uranus as well. And we talked a little bit about the cometary and trans-Neptunian objects feeds. One of the things that's kind of interesting about these is you'll notice they're much less precise than the asteroid feeds. We actually know a fair bit about the asteroid belt in terms of sizes of things and their relative locations and so on. But for trans-Neptunian objects, because they're so much further out and fainter and so on, it's essentially anywhere on Earth. Sometimes 12,000 kilometers is the 1 signal range. So essentially, anybody might get lucky and actually be able to observe that occultation. And any hit that we get would give us some more precise information on these objects than we've ever had. The only trouble, of course, is that their magnitudes are very difficult to deal with. There's also, in addition to the 2 add-ins I mentioned, there's also another one for lunar occultations. Now, lunar occultations is another branch of occultation science, which is the ability to sort of observe stars going on the lunar limb and obtaining additional information about the lunar limb that way. Now, in this day of detailed mapping of the moon, it's much less of an issue, much less scientifically valuable, but still very interesting to see a star skirting the northern hemisphere of the south pole of the moon and going in and out of craters and mountain ranges and so forth. So this will allow you to plan for those, and that add-in is available to integrate with OccultWatcher for you. So if you're interested in finding out more, and I hope some of you are, occultations.org has got it all. I'll just give you a quick visit to that website here with any luck. There we go. So this is the documentation. There is extensive documentation on this software available here. It's still marked as 3.2, but everything here is still pretty complete. The mobile app is available for download through the usual suspects, and it hasn't been updated significantly, but it is built by the same developer who builds OccultWatcher. So again, I've got some good information on it. And again, occultation.org is an excellent source of information, all kinds of documents, how to do it, blogs, and there's very helpful and enthusiastic group that's ready to welcome you. into that little observing community and give you an opportunity to observe these interesting astronomical events as they come about. So with that, I'm just going to declare victory at this point and throw it back to you, Paul, in case there's any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Denis. Looks like a fabulous application. Blake, do we have any questions for Denis?
I've been watching the chat, and unless I missed something, I don't think I see any questions from the YouTube crowd. I'll keep an eye on that. But I have a couple of questions, if I may. I myself have been using the OccultWatcher software for some time. I was interested in observing asteroid occultations. I tried a few. I sort of threw in the towel after a few failed attempts or technological issues. But one of the things that caught my eye was what you mentioned, the Lunar Occultations plugin. Mm-hmm. Now, the last time I checked, I did not see that the feed for the Lunar Occultations was being updated on a regular basis. Now, that's sadly due to the late Brad Timerson passing away. He was the one that prepared these files for the Lunar Occultation plugin to work. But I saw something recently on the groups.io that some people were interested in that. So, like, that's a long build-up. But my question to you is, have you heard in the community if that has been resumed, if people are preparing the lunar occultation feeds?
Yeah, I believe what they're doing is they're taking a different approach to it. So the under the add-ins here, the Lunar Occultations is an add-in now, which uses the occult software, right? So what you're doing is you're installing another piece of software, Occult 4, which is done by David Harold in Australia. And what you're doing here is essentially creating your own feed based on your information. Wow. And that's where I believe it's coming from. So this will show up, and you will be able to use that. But you need to do additional configuration and additional software to get that to work. So that's a little different than what Brad Timerson was doing before, I believe. But I haven't tried this myself, so I offer this information without warranty.
So yeah, thanks. I sort of learned that process, how to use Occult to produce my own sort of displays. That's what I've been doing lately, but I've not been successful at getting my personal feed to go into OccultWatcher. So I'll have another look at it though, see if I can get that to work.
Sure.
And another question that I had for you is, I had heard on the groups.io again that there were some things that were moving to the cloud. Is the author putting some of the computing capabilities or other things like that on a cloud service? Do you know about that?
I haven't heard the latest, but it wouldn't surprise me because Bristow seems to be a really, really skilled programmer. The kind of computational magic that's going on behind the scenes here is pretty impressive to me. And I know that these days a lot of these kind of computational things can be done with things like Azure functions in the cloud and so forth. So I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't moving away from, this is like a classic .NET application in C#. So I think, this technology that is based on is about 10 years old. So I would not be surprised if he wouldn't be moving it towards the cloud, which would also open it up for users of all different kinds of computers, including Macs and so forth. So
yeah, that'd be good if he could help out the Mac and Linux user communities.
Yeah.
So I had a look again. No other questions in the chat. So thank you, Denis.
Okay, thanks a lot, Blake. Appreciate the questions.
All right, thanks again, Denis, for bringing this back into the spotlight. It's good to do a presentation update like that once in a while because there's a tendency to forget, especially after 3-4 years.